If you look around my office, you might realize I have kind of a love for dark, twisted cartoons. And a lot of that may be because I grew up with a lot of dark, twisted cartoons. Now, I'm not talking about the ones like Batman or ones that were meant for older kids. I'm talking about the ones that were meant for little kids, and they probably should have been made for little kids. And I loved the hell out of them. I enjoyed how much they scared me. I loved how every time you got through one, you felt a little tougher. So I'm doing a series reacting and reviewing them. We're gonna analyze how creative they are, how dark they are, and if the dark twisted tone was warranted. So join me in taking a look at some dark tunes. You know what are the best Powerpuff Girl episodes? The ones with entirely pointless death. Twisted Sister was released in 2000. It's been requested a lot, and it's another one of those where it's not really dark until the end, but man is it dark at the end, so let's take a look.
Sugar. Spice.
So I should point out I'm not exactly a Powerpuff Girls expert. I did watch the show a little bit, but not a ton. My first exposure to it was there was a Cartoon Network preview that had Space Ghost hosting a bunch of these different shows and kind of these little pilots, and one of them was Powerpuff Girls, and this was back in 1995. So they looked a little different, nothing too crazy, but you wouldn't see them again until 1998. The show very clearly was a satire of the anime style with the really big eyes and the lines waving in the background and the super violent action. But it also played off the super cute side of anime, the very playful side. So sometimes it'll look very cinematic and detailed, and other times it'll look like a kindergartner drew it, and sometimes it's both. Very similar to what Ren and Stimpy did and what a lot of shows on Cartoon Network at this time would do, like Dexter's Lab, for example. So even though you see this style kind of everywhere now and variations of it, it was not that common. Ren and Stimpy was about the closest we had, and even anime was so otherworldly, and the style was very different in many other respects, that nothing really looked like this. I think that was part of why it was such a big hit. Twisted Sister, obviously a parody of the band Green Day.
On a sunny Sunday afternoon.
What shows like this and Dexter's Lab discovered is that when you keep the designs very simple, you can actually get away with a lot more motion, and that's one of the things in anime you'll see them, I don't want to say cut corners because they're very clever about it and works organically, but they do very much try to incorporate moments of stillness where you don't see the mouth moving or it's a close-up of the eyes or the character's really far away, so they can make up for that in the action scenes where they can use a lot of motion and it looks really detailed. What a show like this is doing, and now a lot of shows do, like Gravity Falls and Steven Universe, they make the designs very simple, so on the close-up shots they can still really get a lot of emotion and actual motion at the same time, and in the action sequences they can also be very fluent and very fast.
And let all your troubles wash away with the tide.
I'll just say it, I never got why there's a guy with a long coat hat and a pipe at a beach. I just think he's there to do one thing, and it's not something you can say in a G-rated cartoon.
Everyone except for...
I really like this idea that everybody's relaxing while this fight is going on to a point where you wouldn't even guess it was going on off screen. Unapologetically violent, and I really miss that. I think this is during an era where, you know, it's 90s cartoons, and I think they have a rap of being, you know, a little violent, but it was also kind of a PC era where they're like, let's do less violence and more PSAs and educational, and some did it very well, like Animaniacs, but others just threw in little PSAs at the end, like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So to not only see a kid show, but a kid show about these adorable little girls just be so violent to these characters, it's heartwarmingly mean-spirited. With these scenes in particular, you'll notice that the style is still very simple, but it's still very dramatic. The angles are very extreme. A lot of low angles, Dutch angles, wide angles, tight shots. They play with the colors a lot. Again, very much like anime, but in a traditional anime at that time anyway. If you were to have like this shot where the camera's in between her legs, you'd have to have all the detail on the legs and the dress and the hair and the background and the characters that are looking at her. But since the style is so simple, you can draw it a lot faster. Now the one catch is you can't hold on it as long. In an anime, you could hold on that shot for a while because you're not seeing their lips move, so you can put in a lot of dialogue, and there's usually so much detail in there and it's so well composed, you can enjoy looking at it. But this is so simple, you can only look at it for like a couple seconds. It's a well-arranged shot, but not detailed enough to hold on it very long. But then in contrast, you have a scene like this where the background looks like a kindergartner drew it, and the people inside the train are repeated like a million times. So because it's an action comedy, those are the kind of shortcuts they can get away with, because it only adds to the humor. Yeah, so everybody on that plane is dead. You know, maybe there are a few more darker elements in this than I remember.
You need to clean your room, wash the dishes, take out the trash, finish your homework, fix the roof, eat your dinner, make your bed, finish your homework, fix the roof, eat your dinner.
Another great joke where as they're trying to figure out how to solve how many chores and errands they have to run, the chores and errands are still being said to them all throughout the discussion. Sometimes they would write all that dialogue out for the actor to say, but if you get a really good one, a lot of times they just improvise it. If you listen to some voiceover recordings for kid shows, you'll find not only do they make stuff up, but sometimes they'll go pretty blue.
It was just plain stupid to assume it might be bad. Just what the fuck am I talking about?
Again, in that simplicity, you can get away with using the blank space a lot more. Like, I love the way that door opens up, and it's just black and white for a second. You can't really get away with that in a really detailed show.
I didn't know where to get spices, so I got dirt and twigs and stuff. Well, that's kind of like spices.
So this is them trying to create another Powerpuff Girl, but as you'll find, they don't always have the proper ingredients, which is funny. A lot of these ingredients seem very simple to find, but they don't quite do it right. Which of course leads to why the fourth sister is gonna look as strange as she does.
Oh, look at what I found, girls! Chemical X!
And of course this is adorable. They think they have to accidentally drop the chemical in there because that's what happened originally. Which who knows, I'm not aware of Powerpuff science, maybe that's how it has to be. Even something like having them dash away like that actually saves on a lot of animation of having to have a character run away or walk away. I mean, having a character walk can take a lot of time to do, but if you just have a line go off, boom, it's done in like a millisecond, but it also adds to a lot of comedy. So again, it's working within that limitation very cleverly. You probably caught on, but they're recreating shot for shot, color by color, the opening with the professor falling on the ground there. Okay. That does look like something else, right? That does look like something else. Once more, very Ren and Stimpy inspired. Whenever there's a close-up of something, you have a little too much detail. Sometimes you get the background artist to draw it and color it for you. But even with that said, that does look like something else, right?
We're the Powerpuff Girls.
Sisters.
I feel like if this was released now, it would be taken the wrong way so easily. But this is back at a time when people thought entertainers were just trying to entertain people, so nobody took it the wrong way.
And you are? I know! Bunny! Bunny, 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 bunny!
It's at moments like this when you just say, I'm a grown man watching this. No regrets!
Bunny, 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 bunny!
Okay, little regret. This part's a little tough to get through.
Bunny, 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 bunny!
Bunny, we got it!
Bonnie.
So already setting up, this is probably not gonna work like they are imagining it's going to work.
Now go fight crime! Go, Bunny, go!
Yes! Go, Bunny! Go!
That's one of my favorite deliveries in the thing. Like, even the narrator knows this isn't gonna go well.
And when you catch the bad guys, bam!
I really like this because it's such an innocent mistake, but it also shows without any dialogue how she could confuse the two. So it doesn't make her look bad or mean-spirited. It very much shows she's still trying to help.
I interrupt this program for an important news bulletin. It seems one of the Powerpuff Girls has gone muy loco.
Another element I don't know would fly today.
Townsville in much, much trouble.
Criminal waving is a great touch.
Hurry, girls, hurry! You've created a monster!
So the narrator even says you've created a monster. This is very obviously a throwback to classic monster stories like Frankenstein, where the monster is not evil, it just doesn't understand how the world works and what's right and wrong. And staying true to those kind of stories, it of course has to end in tragedy.
You're supposed to stop crime, not help start it. I guess you're not cut out to be a Powerpuff Girl after all.
Something I didn't like about this episode, but it's kind of growing on me more for just how out of nowhere and silly it is that this is a very rushed story. Like, there's not really too much of, like, the pain setting in, or the Powerpuff Girls really have to teach her something. It's like, immediately they're like, you done wrong, she cries, she flies off, the villains attack them, and it's just done super, super quick, which you could argue does not lead to such a dark ending. I mean, such a heavy ending like that is not deserved for something that goes so quickly, but I think that's part of why it's so funny, and also kind of why it's so pointlessly dark. It gets a very mean-spirited chuckle out of me, like we were talking about before.
Wait, Bunny, come back!
So here's a little animation tidbit. If you see a character or characters and the lines around them look really thick and it's not a close-up, you're like, well, that's a little odd. It's going to pan out. It's because they're doing it in one shot. It has to start zoomed in on a drawing that's originally drawn a lot smaller, so the line work is going to look a lot thicker. Just a little tidbit there that I'm sure will change your life forever. See, look at that. That's 3 little kids getting the shit beat out of them by adults. You would never see that today.
Oh, Bunny! Where are you, Bunny? Oh, your sisters need you.
Again, great acting from the narrator. I'm pretty sure that's Tom Kenny. Everybody loves SpongeBob or the Ice King, but I don't know, the narrator from Powerpuff Girls was pretty damn funny. Gotta love how Bunny's return is so triumphant. She gets her own sound effect when she punches someone. Alright, so here's why this episode is so great, and why I think everybody remembers it, especially for being dark. You could end the episode right here. You could have the hearts going, they say, the day is saved, thanks to the Powerpuff Girls and Bunny. You know, I mean, just very, very simple, but for no reason. Like, absolutely no reason at all, they blow her up. They give her this Akira-style explosion, even down to it being silent, and they just obliterate her. And even the reason is super weak.
She was unstable, and the blast broke her down into her original ingredient. She was good after all. We were the ones who were bad.
And that's the lesson, I suppose. I think that silent explosion, especially not only a kid's cartoon, but a Powerpuff cartoon where there's constant noise and constant fighting and stuff going on, I think can really throw a kid off, can suddenly be like, whoa, like what just happened? That was not a super long amount of silence, but I mean, just enough to be a little unnerving. And that's it. There's no funeral. There's no acknowledging the good she did. There's no, well, she'll live in our hearts. I mean, none of that. She's just dead. Out of nowhere, dead. As far as I know, she never comes back. It's entirely pointless. It is entirely pointless, and I kind of love it.
Oh, it's so sad. I can't take it.
Even the narrator is sobbing over how cruel this all is.
Oh, go to a commercial.
So, there it is. Powerpuff Girls' twisted sister, the one and only showing of Powerpuff Bunny before she meets her untimely end. I guess you could argue it teaches kids that just shit happens sometimes, which is not a bad message. It just, nothing was building up to that. But, you know, sometimes the tougher things, you know, that has no build up and it comes out of nowhere. So, I don't know. I do like it. I guess every once in a while you do just need, I mean, not just a dark episode, but like a cruel episode like that. There's just nothing that's even giving you a clue that that ending is going to happen, and that it's going to end on such a bleak note. So I don't know. I guess for something like Powerpuff Girls to do that, it's kind of an edgy move, but it's also, it's edgy for kids. I think it's pretty funny for adults. I think adults really eat up just like that dark mean-spiritedness that you don't see too often in kids' show. I mean, I guess you're seeing him, more and more, I guess, in older kid shows. But I mean, Powerpuff Girls, despite the violence in it, I don't associate with, like, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't put it on the same level as like Avatar or Batman the Animated Series or something like that. I mean, I think it's for a younger audience than that. It's a ballsy thing to do. For kids, I mean, it's one of the earlier little tragedies they got to deal with. I mean, you got Bambi's mom and so forth, but, here's one in this, what you thought was a safe show where you could just watch it and not think, and then suddenly this very innocent character just dies, and like for no reason. So, I dig it. I'm not gonna act like it seems like there's a ton of a reason for it to happen, which usually I argue, I mean, I want that, especially in something in kids media, but I don't know. It's just that sometimes you need that little punch to the gut, and if it's done in a funny way, in a creative way, I think it's all right. There's plenty of other episodes that can cheer you up, I think, after that. And what'd you guys think? Were you, because like I said, I didn't grow up with this. I think I was in college, like, when this episode came out. So I definitely saw an episode or two and I liked it, but I didn't grow up with this. So I don't know, was this like a heart-wrenching moment for you, or was it kind of funny that she suddenly died? Like what did this episode do for you? Because I'm really curious. I got some good laughs out of it, and I do enjoy how dark it is, but what'd you guys think? Hey everyone, I got a couple of these lined up. If there's any particular cartoon you want me to look at as being very dark or twisted, leave it in the comments below. Again, I'm not really looking for movie scenes or cartoons meant for teenagers or older. I'm talking about ones meant for little kids, but still scare the shit out of you. Whether it's an old cartoon or a new cartoon, let me know what you want me to look at.